Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki, Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna. We are reading today from Transcendental Diaries by His Grace Hari Sori Prabhu. So let's begin with some prayers. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It is March the 1st, 1976, and we are in Sridham, Mayapur. There was lively discussion on the walk this morning about modern scientific theories. Prabhupada enjoys instigating debates. This way, he not only exposes the flaws of the prevalent world view, that everything is simply a chance combination of matter, but he also convinces us of the superior nature of Krishna consciousness. This morning, Hridayananda Maharaj brought up a popular concept commonly referred to as the atomic theory. He explained that this theory states that everything is constituted of different atoms. The ultimate truth is the atomic particle. By different combinations of these particles, different material manifestations are produced. According to this, there is no other cause except this endless combining of atomic particles. Srila Prabhupada questioned where from the atom comes. Then he went on to explain that the atomic theory is there in Vedic conception. It is called Paramanuvada. This material, matter, everything, is a combination of atomic particles. Either you take earth or take water or air or fire. Everything is a combination of atoms. That's a fact. But we know that these atoms are coming out as the energy of Krishna, Bina. Bina means the quality of different, not the same quality. Aparayam. This is inferior quality, but there is another superior quality, Jiva Bhuta, and that is the living entity. So two kinds of atoms are coming from Krishna. One is the spiritual atom, and the other is the material atom. So spiritual atoms, they are many, many times greater than the material atoms. And these material atoms are this universal, innumerable universes. Some of the spiritual atoms, when they want to enjoy independently, they are given the chance of enjoying this material atom. So in the material world, it is a combination of material and spiritual atoms. In the spiritual world, there is no material atom. Everything is spirit. Prabhupada said that the physicists have not been able to find out the spiritual atom. They are therefore puzzled, and their scientific research is incomplete. Although Bhagavad Gita gives them information, unfortunately they will not take it. Achyutananda Swami said that because they are so sinful, they cannot see. He compared them to Duryodhana, and that Duryodhana was so sinful that even Krishna personally could not convince him. He had no reservoir of pious activities to draw on. So here we are hearing about the scientist's theory that atoms are the building block for everything that we can see around us. But they eliminate the fact that there is a primal cause of the atoms we know is Krishna. So Prabhupada gives this analogy elsewhere in another class on the Bhagavad Gita. He explains how to make a brick you have to get earth, you have to extract from the earth, and then you have to combine that earth with water, and then you have to heat it up, and there's this whole process to get that brick in shape. And then from the brick you can build a huge building like Shri Shri Radharanath. And then all we perceive is that big building. But if we break that building down into smaller parts, we can understand that the fundamental parts and parcels of the building are coming from those materials: earth, fire, and water, combined in different ways. And then Srila Prabhupada explains that the whole material realm exists in that way, that these elements, earth, water, fire, air, those gross elements are combining in different ways to create different kinds of shapes, different kinds of bodies. But along with the material atoms, there is the spiritual atom. But the spiritual atom is not perceptible by these material eyes. The senses are not perfect. And it is described that actually Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, the super soul, he's actually about this big. But then why can't we see him? Why don't the doctors see him when they're doing open heart surgery? They don't find that there is a little Vishnu in the heart. Why? Because we cannot perceive Kshirodakashayi Vishnu with our material senses. So that's why the scientists are bewildered, because we cannot base everything on what we can see. It's not possible because our senses are not perfect. And our senses can only perceive that which is material, cannot see unless we are given divine vision. And in the same way, the spirit soul is described that the spirit soul is 1/10,000th the tip of a hair in size. That is very minute. How can the scientist understand that there is such a minute particle of spirit within the heart? They cannot see. But we can see by reading. We can see by hearing. That is how the devotee sees. And then we can understand. And by divine vision we can see. And then the scientists are being compared to Duryodhana, who was against the supremacy or the ruling of Krishna and his devotees. And even when Krishna himself personally went to Duryodhana to try and convince him to give the rightful land to the Pandavas, he refused. So the scientists are being compared to Duryodhana, that they have their theories which they actually cannot support properly, and they're being defeated, but they refuse to accept defeat. So this is who they are being compared to. Prabhupada liked his comparison. He agreed. The Duryodhana party, and we are Pandu's party. So there must be war always, fighting, and they'll be smashed. He quoted Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, text number 19. Hridayani Vyadarayat. You know that? Breaking the heart of Dhritarashtra. So we have to make preaching in such a way to break the heart of this Dhritarashtra company. Then it will be preaching. Prabhupada mentioned that a description of the atom is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. There it describes the 6 anus, that 6 anus make one param anu. It is this param anu that the scientists are detecting. Prabhupada concluded, therefore, that no scientist has a proper understanding of the atom. Achyutananda Maharaj asked how they were able to make an atomic bomb if they didn't know what the atom is. Prabhupada's simple reply effectively removed his doubt. Suppose if you can make a nice vegetable preparation, that does not mean you know everything of the vegetable. You are still a rascal. He pointed to the new building gradually being made manifest by the hired workers. Just like this mason worker, they know how to set up the bricks and do nice work, but that does not mean they know where from the brick has come. In the verse for Srimad Bhagavatam class this morning, Prahlad Maharaj explained the futility of striving for a better material situation. People in general aspire for heavenly life, to live longer and enjoy greater standards of material happiness. But even the demigods became afraid merely by the movement of Hiranyakashipu's eyebrow. Yet Hiranyakashipu was destroyed within a moment by Lord Nrsimha. So even though Hiranyakashipu had so much opulence and so much facility, and he could even request the demigods to do whatever he wanted them to do because they were so fearful of him, he lost all of that. He lost all of his power, all of his prestige, all of his fearful nature, everything. He lost it all just from a moment of being with Lord Nrsimhadev, who tore him to pieces. And Srila Prabhupada explains in another class that material opulence is actually just like a dream. It's here today and gone tomorrow. It's very fleeting. It's very fleeting. And actually, he also explains that how self-realization means to understand that everything belongs to Krishna, that we belong to Krishna. So all of this material facility that we may try to enjoy doesn't even belong to us in the first place. And trying to enjoy it will never give us the satisfaction that the soul is ultimately looking for. And in trying to enjoy it separately from Krishna, there is a fear always that it will be taken away, because we know it will. We know it will, deep down. Whatever we have, it will be taken away. But if we understand that it's not ours in the first place, then there's nothing to be taken away. There's only something given to us by the Lord, which at some point He will decide will no longer be with us. But it's His decision. And a surrendered soul is able to utilize what they have in the service of the Lord, understanding that nothing they have in the first place belongs to them. And that is real renunciation, and that is the only thing that can actually give us that satisfaction we're looking for in living in this material realm and in utilizing what we have in the service of the Lord. And then it is said here, Prabhupada told us therefore that we should avoid getting entangled in the pursuit of material enjoyment. Sex life is its pinnacle, but its result is simply troublesome. So sex life in this material world is supposed to be the highest enjoyment in this material realm. But Srila Prabhupada also explains in another class that when we try to enjoy this sex life, then that material knot within the heart, it becomes tighter and tighter. And that's very uncomfortable, actually. Imagine a knot in the heart becoming tighter and tighter. And that's what happens when we try to enjoy separately from the Lord. And he explains it's simply troublesome. He says, there is an ever-increasing number of devotees attending class, many of them brahmacharis. So when Prabhupada told us it is better to avoid sex life altogether and remain brahmachari, there was a collective response of Jai, Jai Prabhupada. So once Srila Prabhupada was asked, how do we maintain our determination to practice Krishna consciousness? And he responded, celibacy. So this celibacy is very important for the brahmacharis, for the sannyasis, and for the grihastas. Celibacy is very important. And he said that, when he was approaching his brahmacharis and speaking with his brahmacharis, what he would express to them is that actually it's better if they can avoid sex life altogether. In other words, stay a brahmachari. And he did encourage the men to stay brahmachari if they can. At the same time that Guru Maharaj explained that in Kali Yuga, most men would want to be married. So on the one hand, all the men should stay brahmacharis, and on the other hand, in Kali Yuga, it's a little bit inevitable that most men would want to be married. So there has to be that balance, and we have to have that proper understanding, and also look at who Srila Prabhupada is speaking to. So to the brahmacharis, he would tell them, there's no need to be married, avoid sex life, and just focus on your brahmachari life, on your celibacy in Krishna consciousness. Keep that intact. So that's what he was explaining to them. Whereas if he were speaking to an audience of women, he would tell them, you should all be married. So we have to always look at the context. Okay. And then Srila Prabhupada said, either illicit sex or legal sex, he said, there are many, many sufferings. But those who are miser means one who cannot use the benefit he has got, this human form of life. They know there are so many after effects. They are not satisfied. So the whole Krishna consciousness movement is how to become dhira, selfless. Then life is successful. And anyway, don't be involved, entangled with these material things. So sex life is there amongst the animals as well. But in a human form of life, we have an opportunity to actually utilize our mental faculties and to utilize what we have to understand Krishna, to make progress in Krishna's service, and to actually achieve loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Other kinds of animals don't have that opportunity, so we shouldn't just be wasting time becoming more entangled, doing the same things that animals are doing. We can do more than that, and we have a responsibility to do more than that. And we'll never find the satisfaction just from remaining in an animal consciousness. We have to utilize what we have in service of the Lord to find actual satisfaction, to become successful in life. That's what Prabhupada is saying. Srila Prabhupada, Shri Shri Radharanath ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. This morning we were calculating that there are as many atoms. So many living entities are also there, and there is struggle here. So in this human life, the chance is how to get out of this material atomic combination and go back home, back to Godhead. This is the chance. So there are 8,400,000 species of life, and we have the chance, being in human form of life, to actually make progress and get out of this cycle of growing from one body to the next. The human form of life is so valuable. Hansadutta Prabhu arrived in Mayapur today with Prithuputra Swami. He had stopped off in Vrindavan for a few days on his way from Europe by air. Meanwhile, his Sankirtan buses are being driven overland through Turkey, Iran and Pakistan. Now that the village-to-village Sankirtan program is about to commence, Prabhupada is becoming more and more enthusiastic, very keen to do something wonderful in India. He again called a meeting of all the senior men to make plans for travelling Sankirtan. Jayapataka Maharaj purchased a concrete mixer for 17,000 rupees to help speed up construction of the new building. The work is now so far behind that Prabhupada has ordered a double shift to begin immediately. He wants it to be ready for the festival, at least as far as sleeping accommodation goes. but it doesn't appear possible at the present rate of progress. I have contracted so this is Hari Sori Prabhu speaking now. I have contracted a heavy cold. The skin on my heels is deeply cracked, and I have a cut on my hand. Moreover, my left thumb joint is bruised, and my knees have become swollen and sore, with sacs of fluid on them, making it painful to kneel. I therefore have to use a pillow to cushion my knees when I massage Prabhupada's head. The physical discomfort is making it hard for me to focus my mind on my service. I must be more attentive to avoid offences at Prabhupada's lotus feet. So it's so wonderful, it's so inspiring to see how, although he is suffering in many ways physically, his consciousness is that I must continue to be more attentive to my spiritual master. I must continue to avoid making offences to Srila Prabhupada, even though I'm in this condition. So he understands deeply that our spiritual lives depend on actually serving the pure devotee and pleasing them. And an offense to the pure devotee gives us degradation, complete degradation in every sphere of our lives. But I think more than that, more than just understanding that, this kind of service he's offering to Srila Prabhupada shows that he actually loved Prabhupada. You cannot offer this kind of service being in such a condition if you didn't have love in your heart. You can't do it. So he must have loved Srila Prabhupada to have been able to continue with his service with so much dedication. Evening massage is also becoming difficult to perform. It has been getting increasingly longer each night. Every evening after the pujaris fumigate Prabhupada's bedroom with incense to drive out the mosquitoes, Anakadundubi Das and I drape a large net around the bed. When Prabhupada lies down to take rest at about 10 p.m., the lights go out. I slip under the net and perch cross-legged at his side to massage up and down his legs and feet as he softly slumbers. Previously, the massage lasted between a half an hour and 45 minutes, but here in Mayapur the sessions have been going on for an hour or longer. Tonight it went on for over 2 hours, the longest ever. I left Prabhupada's room just after midnight. I find it very difficult to sit in the dark, sweating under the mosquito net, breathing air thick with incense smoke, with no breeze for relief, and not a sound save Srila Prabhupada's soft snoring. It is difficult to stay awake on the job. Occasionally I do drift off, only to snap suddenly back to consciousness without knowing how long I have been out. But tonight, by Krishna's grace, I was able to stay awake by chanting shlokas within my mind. I remembered that in the Gita, Krishna called Arjuna Gudakesha, the conqueror of sleep. My little experience is giving me a glimpse of what a high degree of sense control is required to earn the title of Gudakesha. Serving Srila Prabhupada personally is sometimes very demanding, but it is extremely rewarding and always fully satisfying to the heart. March 2nd, 1976. The sannyasi or grihastha controversy continues to simmer, although in Srila Prabhupada's presence the criticisms are muted. Even among the sannyasis there is no clear consensus. When Prabhupada brought it up for discussion on his walk this morning, Hridayananda Maharaj said he doesn't think the grihasthas are such a burden on the society, but Guru Kripa, Yashodanandana and Gargamuni Maharajas disagreed and were quite pushy. They feel that the presence of many women and children in the temples is creating an atmosphere of laziness. Prabhupada agreed that the women and children could live on farms. There, the children could be brought up as devotees and the women engaged in small cottage industry. The city centers could then be used simply for preaching. Guru Kripa doubted the grihasthas would agree to such a proposal. Prabhupada's response was quick and straight to the point. Then don't allow that. Unless they follow the rules and regulations, what is the use? He was concerned that all the devotees be conscientious about their service and spiritual practices, and he was satisfied to hear from Gargamuni that in general, most devotees do attend all the programs in the temple. Prabhupada's main point was that all devotees must be fully engaged in service. He doesn't want any laziness. So there was some conflict or some clashing between the different ashrams, the Grihastha ashram and the Sannyasi ashram. And that's understandable when they're operating within the same environment. It could have been because the Sannyas ashram maintains that those who are in the ashram are meant to be renounced from their material possessions. They're meant to be, their roles are very different, and the services that they operate within are very different from the grihastas. Their needs are very different. So they're giving up family attachments, they're giving up facilities that the grihastas would actually require. The grihastas need a lot of facility, they require that to raise families, to raise children. So the sannyasis actually perceived that the women and the children being in the temple environment wasn't actually conducive for a temple environment. But we can also, it's important for us to understand that children are not a nuisance, and women and children have to be protected. And it may have been that the environment of the temple was not a conducive place for them to practice their Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada suggested they could stay on farms. That environment may have been more suitable for them. But basically, whether one is in Grihastha ashram or in Sannyas ashram, whatever ashram it was, he didn't want that the temple become a place where devotees are lazy. That was the main point. So whatever ashram it was, the environment should have been one of service, one of preaching. He brought up the same point again at the end of his Srimad Bhagavatam lecture. He told us that the disease of everyone in the material world is the desire to be a master. Whether a person has charge of one or two family members or the entire universe, like Lord Brahma, the disease is the same. So when people come to our Krishna conscious society, the leaders have to be alert to see to the treatment of this disease. So everybody has this tendency to want to lord it over something. They want to be the master of something. And even when we're coming into the society, we want to be the master instead of the servant. That's the natural tendency of the living entity in the material world. And even we were reading earlier in the book how some of the sannyasis only accepted the sannyas ashram so that they didn't have to be bossed around anymore. They didn't want to be the little brahmachari anymore. They wanted to rule it over the rest of the brahmacharis by being a sannyasi. So that tendency is there. And Prabhupada stressed that the leaders have to be alert to see that the treatment of this is dealt with properly. So that would mean that the leaders themselves would have to understand that their position as a leader is not one of master, it is one of servant. That is important. And whoever is coming in, when they are appointed a certain service, when they are given a responsibility, it's important that the consciousness with which they accept the service, the consciousness with which they are given the service, there's an understanding that we are servants, whatever service it may be, however high up it may seem, whatever it is, we are all servants. That's it. Prahlad Maharaj has understood the so-called false prestigious position of becoming a master. He says that I am quite aware of this false thing. Kindly engage me. Nija Britya Parshvam means just like apprentice. One apprentice is engaged to one expert man. By and by, the apprentice learns how to do the things. Therefore, he says, Nija Britya Parshvam. Not that immediately I become very expert servant, but let me... So, Srila Prabhupada is just explaining how Prahlad Maharaj's consciousness is that he's always in a apprentice. So when we become a servant, it's not that we should ever think, yes, I have become an expert servant, because that's the same mentality as thinking I am master. Our institution is for that purpose. If somebody comes here, he must learn how to serve. Those who are serving, one should learn from him how he's serving 24 hours. Then our joining this institution will be successful. And if we take it that here's an institution where we can have free hotel, free living, and free sense gratification, then the whole institution will be spoiled. Be careful. All the GBCs, they should be careful that this mentality may not increase. Everyone should be eager to serve, to learn how to serve. Then life will be successful. So, if anyone is ever coming into ISKCON with a mentality of just utilizing ISKCON for its facility, then that's not the proper consciousness with which to come to ISKCON. But even if someone does come with that consciousness, which is likely to some degree, it has to be rectified, it has to be dealt with properly by the leaders of the society and by those who are serving. So it's important that the devotees who are in ISKCON take the responsibility to actually be engaged 24 hours and to understand their position as a servant in the society, to set that example for those who are coming in. And there has to be this proper training system for those who are coming in. And in Juhu, when there was some accommodation available, then there were a lot of women in white saris who came to stay at the temple. And Srila Prabhupada actually told them not to allow the women to stay, and that was because the women were not really sincerely interested in devotional service as much as they were interested in just using the facilities of the temple. So he told them, no, that's not the purpose of ISKCON. ISKCON is not just a facility to provide housing, it's not just a facility to provide free living, it's a facility to cultivate Krishna consciousness, and that must always be the core of the reason people come. That should be the core, that should be the reason people stay. About 10:30 a.m., he heard some disconcerting reports about the Vrindavan temple from Hansadutta and Prithu Putra Swami. They said the devotees in Vrindavan are eating 3 large meals a day, and that they even owe money for food supplies. Akshayananda Maharaj is spending all his time in management at the temple. Consequently, there is no preaching program going on. Prabhupada wasn't happy to hear about this. He told Guru Kripa Swami to go there immediately with instructions to reorganize everything and to send Akshayananda out preaching to raise funds through life membership. So the whole point of the temple, again, is not just to provide facilities for eating nicely 3 times a day and just sleeping. The point of the temple is to cultivate Krishna consciousness and to preach. That's the whole point of the temple. We are in a preaching movement. And actually Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur at some point said it may be better to just sell all the marble in the temple to print books. So of the two, preaching and having temples, the more important and most essential part of our movement is the preaching. Even if we had no facilities, which in the beginning the devotees didn't. When the devotees were traveling on their pioneering missions, they had no facilities. And they were preaching and the movement was successful. Now we have so much facility, and I feel that many of us, fallen asleep. We're not preaching that much, really. We can do so much more, especially with what we have. We have all the facility. But the whole point of all of it is that we are sharing what we have. We're bringing people, we are inspiring people. We have a huge temple. Most of the time, I'd say it's mostly empty. Why? We have to really think about these things carefully. Our spiritual masters, they have done everything for us. They have brought so many souls to Krishna consciousness. And now it's our responsibility to take that over. It's our responsibility to see what we can do. That's why Krishna Chaitanya is going out every day by himself on Harinam. In the evening, Srila Prabhupada called all the sannyasis and whatever GBC men were present to discuss the position of women in our society. He is concerned that a major conflict seems to be looming between the sannyasis and Grihastha temple presidents. They appear to be at odds on many issues. There are reports that sannyasis are not allowed to preach in certain temples in America because they are speaking out against marriage and are almost exclusively supporting brahmachari life. There are also allegations that large buildings are being purchased simply for use as residences. Thus, difficult monetary obligations are being incurred, and it is the brahmachari Sankirtan members who end up paying for them. Preaching programs have begun to suffer as a result. And some sannyasis are objecting that brahmacharis are being told to get married if they feel some sexual agitation, rather than being encouraged to strive for higher principles of austerity and celibacy. They argued that the presidents prefer to get them married off in order to keep them in their temples for fundraising, rather than let them travel and preach with sannyasis. Prabhupada heard the complaints but said that all things must be decided by the GBC and no one can go against their decision. He declined to make a final statement one way or the other, but he again suggested the women and children could live on ISKCON farms and help develop small-scale cottage industries. He said that our whole preaching program is detachment from material enjoyment, stopping sex life altogether. Grihastha life is a concession to those unable to give up sex immediately, but he added that in actuality, marriage is not at all required. It is simply burdensome, licit or illicit. The after effects of sex simply mean difficulty. So, sex, on the one hand, it's entangling, we spoke about that, it tightens the knot in the heart. And then on the other hand, the difficulty is that it comes with sacrifice, because children require a lot of sacrifice, and that is the result of sex. So whether or not sex is done properly within the ashram, either way, it's a cause of difficulty. It's a cause of potential entanglement, and it's a cause of sacrifice. But of course, Grihastha life is there for those who do want to beget Krishna conscious children, and that is also an essential part of the movement. And again, we have to look carefully at the context. If we were to just read this paragraph and look just at this paragraph and preach just this paragraph, we don't get the full picture of what Srila Prabhupada wanted in the movement. We may think, okay, marriage is not at all required and sex life is to be given up completely. But actually Srila Prabhupada did encourage marriage. He said all the women should be married, but here he is speaking to the sannyasis, he's speaking to the brahmacharis, so he's telling them it's not required for them to be married. It's not that they have to feel completely obliged to marry, but rather, if they can, rather just remain celibate, rather remain determined in that way. Yeah. March the 3rd, 1976. In the morning, Srila Prabhupada met with two of his godbrothers, Govinda Maharaj and one other, who came from Chaitanya Gaudiya Math to see him. Prabhupada referred to Govinda Maharaj as an old friend. After Tirtha Maharaj, who is now apparently crippled, he is second in command at the Chaitanya Math. Prabhupada gave him a copy of his translation and commentary on the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela Volume 1. He also discussed his book production and distribution with Govinda Maharaj. Their meeting was short but pleasant. It seemed Prabhupada will reciprocate with a visit to their math. With the evening came disturbing news that Jagadish Prabhu, who is now back in America, has sent all the Dallas Gurukul children and teachers home without consulting anyone. It so disturbed Prabhupada that he immediately called all the sannyasis and GBCs into his room for discussion. Jagadish was here in Mayapur just a short while ago, but he had not mentioned that he was contemplating such radical action. Prabhupada was incredulous. He said that the Gurukul must be continued at all costs. He knew of the difficulties in conforming to government regulations and of the devotees' attempt to find another place, but he never anticipated Jagadish's drastic decision. He was extremely perturbed and feared that everything there would be finished. So after consulting with his GBC men and sannyasis, he ordered Dayananda Prabhu, who was formerly the headmaster there in Dallas, to return tomorrow. He gave him instructions to take charge and keep the school open. Even when I reminded Srila Prabhupada that Jagadish will be arriving here in a few days for the GBC meetings, he remained insistent that Dayananda should leave at the earliest opportunity and do all he can to prevent the closing. After much discussion, he finally sent everyone out. So here we see how much Srila Prabhupada really cares that the Gurukul continue in Dallas. But not just in Dallas. Srila Prabhupada wanted that our children are given facilities to be educated in a Krishna conscious environment. And he actually explains in a letter to Hamsadutta that the modern educational institutions are different grades of slaughterhouses. He refers to them as slaughterhouses. And it's not an easy environment. I spent the last week at a school and I attended a conference, and I could see and understand how much these children have to deal with and how difficult their lives are. It's very hard out there. And it's so important that we properly care for our children, because the children are the foundation for the future of ISKCON. So their foundation and how we teach them is vital. It's vital for them, it's vital for the movement. So Srila Prabhupada expresses a great concern for the children, and he expresses a great concern for the Gurukul, and he wants it to go on. I returned about 9 p.m. to find him sitting on the carpet in his bedroom before his small deity of Lord Chaitanya, deep in contemplation. He looked very strained. So he's experiencing a lot of strain because of management and what's going on with the school. And it's important for us to understand that a pure devotee is not emotionless. Actually, they do experience depression, and they do experience strain and anxiety, but their emotions are pure. Their emotions are only on behalf of others. They are concerned with the welfare of others so much. Like my Guru Maharaj, he's so compassionate that he experiences depression because of some of the situations his disciples are in. It's not that the pure devotee is emotionless. They experience all of these emotions, but it's because they are so compassionate. They care so much for the well-being of others. And here Srila Prabhupada is feeling strained. He looks strained. Kneeling before him, I asked how we could avoid bad management. Should we simply pray to Krishna to reveal the faults, or what? With resignation in his voice, Prabhupada replied, "We cannot hire outsiders. Everything must be done by our own men. Unless a man is Krishna conscious, he cannot manage nicely. A bad man cannot do good management. The only way we can be sure of our leaders is if they follow the instructions of the spiritual master." So Srila Prabhupada is making a point that good management can only be done by someone who is Krishna conscious. Because someone who is Krishna conscious, who is practicing properly, following the order of their spiritual master, they will receive the proper insight from the Lord within their heart and from their spiritual masters. They will receive the proper guidance to be able to manage properly. And someone who is Krishna conscious will understand that management is never isolated from dealing with people. management is always involved in, or involving people, and whatever decisions are made affect people. And if someone is Krishna conscious, they'll be dealing with the matter in a personal way, understanding that their decisions affect other people and how they affect other people. Because our movement is meant to be one of personalism. It's not an impersonal movement. Management is not isolated from people. And if someone is truly Krishna conscious, then they will truly care about people, and decisions that they make will be for everybody's benefit, at the same time that it's also pleasing to Krishna. It's described here, a bad man cannot do good management because they won't be able to make decisions that are pleasing to Krishna, that are pleasing to the spiritual master, and that are actually truly beneficial to everybody. So Krishna consciousness is really the cure for management issues. And that's it. And it ends on a happier note. On a happier note, Pushta Krishna Swami arrived very late in the evening with Prabhupada's new Mercedes limousine, which he had driven from Germany. He was immediately appointed Srila Prabhupada's new secretary. Before packing his own bags, Dayananda gave him a quick briefing. Srila Swarup Goswami also arrived. He went to the banana plantation we have near the Jalangi River to stay with Sudama Vipra Maharaj. So in conclusion, I thought we'd just summarize some of the points which came up during the class and see how it all kind of fitted together. So we discussed how the pinnacle of material enjoyment in this world is actually sex life, but how that sex life is experienced among all the different kinds of species of life, all the different animals. But the human form of life is so valuable because it's not meant just for eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And it's our responsibility to actually achieve self-realization, being in this form of life. It's an opportunity and it's a responsibility. But Srila Prabhupada explained, for those who cannot immediately give up sex life completely, there is some allowance of that in Grihastha Ashram for the purpose of begetting Krishna conscious children. And he says that on the one hand, sex, whether or not it is illicit, even in Grihastha Ashram, it's a cause for difficulty. Why? Because children are not, it's not easy to take care of them. It's a sacrifice. It's a great sacrifice. And there is also the risk of hardening the knot in the heart by becoming more entangled. It is a risk. And on the other hand, it is important that we do have children in the movement because they are the future of ISKCON. There will be no ISKCON if there are no Krishna conscious children. So that is also a very important part of the movement, that we do have children coming into the movement. Although it is a great sacrifice, it is vital for the movement to continue properly. But for the movement to continue properly, we have to engage these children in a proper way from a young age, and that's why proper educational facilities for the children have to be considered, like gurukuls, or if not gurukuls, then the temple also should have some program in place to cultivate the Krishna consciousness of these children properly. But it's not just that the children should get proper training, but anybody who walks through the door should get proper training. From the moment they walk in, they should be cultivated, they should be taken care of properly. Because Srila Prabhupada did not want that the movement become a place of lazy people. He did not want that the movement become a place just where we eat and sleep. He wanted that the movement continue with devotees who are enthusiastic to learn, enthusiastic to preach. And then it becomes our responsibility, those of us who have been here for some time, to actually follow our spiritual masters properly and to actually become devotees who are exemplary, to become devotees who can reach out to those who are ready to come in, and become devotees who actually can take care of those who want to come in. It's our responsibility to do that as well. And then whilst we do that, it's important for us to always remember that while we reach out, while we offer our guidance, our help, we are always a servant. Always. We are always a servant of our spiritual master in whatever service we are doing. And only once we really have that mood of being a servant and of actually following our spiritual masters and their instructions properly, then all of the issues around management and all of the issues around clashing between ashrams will all be resolved. Everything becomes resolved by Krishna consciousness. So we went a bit over time there. Srila Prabhupada ki! Are there any questions or comments? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Gangamata, for inviting us to your wonderful class. So you spoke about preaching. So we had a midday program daily, which Rukmani came up with, and it's going on smooth. We had a lot of people that came over for the midday arati, and then we had to stop people. We had to stop people from going out of the temple and sit and listen to Bhagavad Gita class. So Raghunath Bhatta Prabhu and Krishna Chaitanya, they've been so instrumental towards people. They cultivated them, and actually I was just like sitting down and just appreciating them so much for doing such good preaching, cultivating people and stuff like that. So by looking at them, it inspires me and also makes me want to do the same thing like what they're doing to us.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I also think that that program is just brilliant and so necessary. Yeah, it sounds like the preaching is going on nicely there. Thank you for inspiring us. And thank you, Ravindra, for glorifying the devotees all the time and inspiring me. Is there anything else for anyone? Okay. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. You're talking about teaching children and training them, and we tried many things ourselves. Really, like we had one school, and when I was working, we managed to transfer everybody to one school who were all devotees. It was a brand new school, and somehow we managed to get everybody in one school. But it's just that our devotees couldn't, they were not so mature to deal with it, with the people and the public. And then slowly, they also got lazy, some of them. And gradually, then slowly, they left. It was a very beautiful school. It was a brand new school. With the deputy principal was a Christian, but that person was very appreciative of the devotees. And later, I think her daughter met an accident. It was a daughter, met an accident. And the daughter was in Addington Hospital. And one of the devotees was working there. He's Pradyumna. The devotee come and bring potatoes every week. And he was there, present before she was leaving. So it's interesting, that we can, we can try we tried many things. And we also tried to get a school, not so long ago, some years back, and Partha Maharaj was here, and we needed signatures. We got about 200 signatures to see that the interest in the environment to have a school like that. But the devotees themselves, the parents, they will send the children to the private schools. So it's like really, like training, we tried these things. And that was meant to be fully paid by the state, all the teachers. We had the arrangement, everything done. But then people have different views, so we have tried things to train people in different ways, but we're not so successful. I'll let you know on that.
Yes. Sometimes we can try so many things, so many different systems to try and educate the children nicely in a nice environment, but all we can do is try. That's it. Yeah, it's a bit difficult. Is there anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yeah, so my realization is, we can make a humble and sincere effort to preach, but everything, both success and failure, is in the hands of the Lord. So we can go out and invite people, we can try to preach, but ultimately, because when I joined this temple, you couldn't sit. There was no space in between. You have to come early to actually get a seat. And those days, there were no chairs. Also, when we sat on the marble, there was no even carpet, and it was ecstatic. But, we have to always remain enthusiastic, even when things are down, because they will also rise again. Yeah, that's my realization.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, the result is not in our hands. Although trying in so many ways to preach and creating facilities to bring people and inspire people and going out and preaching, we can try our best, but the result is in Krishna's hands. And whatever the result may be, we must remain enthusiastic, like you said, because there will come a point where, there will be the ups and the downs. There will be the people who come and the people who go. There will be the people who come and stay. So we keep going for them. We keep going for our spiritual masters, regardless of what the result is. Krishna will decide as he likes, and we are just instrumental. That was nice. Thank you.
But also, see, like when we preach to people, we must be able to continue watering the plant of those people, and keep on contacting them and asking them how's their spiritual practices and everything, so it make them much more stronger.
Yes, that's important, that we continue to cultivate, that we continue to check in and make sure that those who we have reached out to, who have connected, that we continue to give what we have been given and continue to care for them and make sure that they are coming closer. Yeah. Anything else? Okay. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Gaur Premanande.